You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
I used to dread shopping for car insurance. Endless forms, terrible hold music, and somehow my rate always went up. Then I found Jerry. Jerry handles the entire insurance shopping process, from comparing quotes side by side to purchasing your policy and even helping you cancel your old coverage, all in one app. In just minutes, Jerry checked for quotes from more than 50 top insurers. It's fast, easy, and totally free to try. Before you renew your policy, download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/SXM.
And away we go, episode 1103 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, June 26, 2025. The first round of the 2025 NBA draft is complete, and that first round included our Wizards having 2 first-round picks. The Wizards with the number 6 overall pick took Tre Johnson out of the University of Texas, and the Wizards with the number 18 overall pick took Walter Clayton Jr. out of the University of Florida, but the Wizards reportedly are trading Clayton to the Utah Jazz for the University of Illinois' Will Riley, who the Jazz took with the number 21 overall pick, and the Wizards reportedly are getting the number 43 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft and second-round picks in the 2031 and 2032 NBA drafts. More wheeling and dealing by Monumental Basketball President Michael Winger and Wizards General Manager Will Dawkins. Analysis coming up later in the show. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. What is the final installment of this podcast for a few days, as I will be taking some vacation days. Yes, vacation days. This podcast is the rare podcast for which there is a new episode each weekday, Monday through Friday, with each episode out by 5 a.m. Eastern and often much earlier. But I do have a wife and 2 kids. I do occasionally have to do stuff with those people. Not often, but occasionally. And so I will be taking some vacation days. The next scheduled installment of this podcast will be for this coming Wednesday, July 2nd. So no show for this Friday, Monday, or Tuesday, but then back with a show for this coming Wednesday, July 2nd. However, as is always the case with vacation days, if there is major breaking news, I will do my best to do an emergency installment of the podcast. Now, I'm not anticipating any major breaking news in the coming days, especially this time of year, what traditionally is the quietest time of the year in sports. But of course, you never know. So if the Commanders say fire Dan Quinn, I'll do my best to do an emergency installment of the podcast. But yeah, I'm not anticipating a head coaching change for our NFL team in the coming days. But speaking of our NFL team, next segment we'll speak with 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham, who has intel on the Commanders' proposed stadium on the RFK Stadium site in Washington, D.C. Scott will address whether the D.C. Council will approve the deal for the stadium by the July 15th deadline that has been set by the team and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, the possibility of a retractable roof for the stadium, the possibility of RFK being in the name of the stadium, to what degree tailgating will be a thing at the stadium, and more. Also, Scott will discuss a notable back and forth that he had with Dan Quinn about a month ago, and Scott will identify his favorite Commanders players with whom to speak. By the way, we, with the Commander Stadium deal and the D.C. Council, had some stuff on Wednesday afternoon. D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, he on Wednesday afternoon introduced legislation to remove the deal for the stadium out of Mayor Bowser's budget. The idea being that the stadium deal will not be voted on by July 15th. The Commanders, they on Wednesday afternoon put out the following statement, quote, "The Washington Commanders are committed to working with the council around the clock to keep this project on schedule and deliver a world-class stadium for the district by 2030. This is about more than just a stadium. It's an investment in families, local workers, and long-term economic opportunity that will transform this community, district, and the region. Any substantive details will jeopardize DC's ability to attract premier concerts, global talent, and marquee events, including the 2031 FIFA Women's World Cup. Most importantly, it will slow new jobs at a time when the district needs them the most. We are hopeful the council will continue to work in an expedited way to approve this deal and deliver a significant win for the people of D.C." End quote. Translation: Hey, D.C. Council, stop being slow and get to work and pass this deal. Here's the bottom line, man. Nothing with the D.C. government is ever easy or efficient, okay? And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. And also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. Each team on Wednesday concluded a stretch of 16 games in 16 days with a shutout loss. How about that? The Nats, they on Wednesday lost at the San Diego Padres 1-0 to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series, despite starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore allowing 1 run in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. The O's, they on Wednesday evening lost to the Texas Rangers 7-0 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, as Rangers starting pitcher Jacob deGrom took a no-hit bid into the 8th inning. Colton Cowser, he is the Orioles starting left fielder and number 6 batter, went 1 for 3 with a single. He in the bottom of the 8th had a leadoff single through the right side of the infield to end deGrom's bid for a no-hitter. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Lots of feedback on the complicated legacy of former Redskins limited partner Fred Smith, who this past Saturday died at the age of 80. Fred Smith became a major force in the ouster of Dan Snyder as lead owner of the team, but Fred Smith also is a major reason that the name of the team no longer is Redskins. We on Wednesday's show, episode 1102, talk Fred Smith with Michael Phillips, founding editor of The Richmonder. Michael covered the Skins / Washington football team / Commanders for years for the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Email from Dave in Israel. Writes Dave, R.I.P. Fred Smith, you are accountable for the name Redskins being canceled. You were too stupid to figure out some other way, and so suddenly you are dead. Jeez, you are a hated man. Your legacy stinks. Thank you for the email, Dave. Email from Doug Wilson. Subject, quote, Fred Smith, R.I.H. Oh, God. End quote. Writes Doug, hey, Al, if Dan Snyder is Redskins enemy number 1, and he is, then Fred Smith is Redskins enemy number 1A. The level of cowardice and selfishness that the man showed in demanding the name change is difficult to describe. What a despicable soul. May he never rest in peace. His family should issue a public apology. As always, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for the email, Doug. Man, you guys are harsh. Look, Fred Smith in his life did a lot of impressive and good things. He had an all-time career in business. He was the chairman, president, and chief executive officer of FedEx. He founded FedEx in 1971. He served in the Marines. He was very charitable. All of these things are worthy of respect. But I do get the anti-Fred Smith sentiment. He and his feud with Dan Snyder went scorched earth in having his company, FedEx, on Thursday evening, July 2nd, 2020, put out the statement, quote, we have communicated to the team at Washington our request that they change the team name, end quote. That statement essentially was the death blow to the name Redskins. Fred Smith burned the house down, and what he did worked, but what he did was harsh and humiliated the franchise and inflicted severe damage to the franchise and to the fan base. I don't wish that Fred Smith rest in hell or anything like that, okay? I do think that he went too far with that statement, and I don't agree with this portrayal of him by some members of the media and some fans as a pure hero. His legacy as it relates to Washington, as I've been saying, is complicated. Email from David on the indoor practice facility at the Commanders team facility in Ashburn, Virginia, writes David. Do we know what's going on with the Commanders practice bubble? As soon as the minicamp ended, the work crews came in and it appears to be gone. First, the team deflated the bubble. Then the team took all the scrap metal away. And recently, the team appeared to be hauling off the old bubble piece by piece. It looks to me like the team is clearing the indoor practice field completely except for the playing surface. What's replacing the indoor practice facility? Thank you for the email, David. What's happening is the Commanders are putting up a new bubble. This is part of a lot of construction that's going on at the team facility right now, as team ownership, the Josh Harris Group, to its credit, is spending a lot of money to upgrade the team facility, which is regarded as one of the worst in the NFL. The construction at the team facility also includes a new locker room. Well, as you probably can tell, given the heat wave that we have been in the midst of, summer officially started this past Friday. Happy summer, and know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. Asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. It was on April 29th that we had the press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., announcing the deal between the Washington Commanders and Washington, D.C. for the Commanders' next stadium to be on the RFK Stadium land in D.C. But the deal does need to be approved by the D.C. Council. Both the Commanders and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser have wanted a July 15th deadline for the D.C. Council to vote on the deal. But the latest in the stadium saga has been that the D.C. Council may not / likely will not vote on the deal by July 15th. We were guarding this and more with the plans for the Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium site in D.C. Got some intel from 7 News D.C. sports director Scott Abraham this past Tuesday. He had a post on X this past Tuesday evening, wrote, quote, July 15th is looming. A source close to the situation said that the Commanders believe there is a path to get the D.C. Council to vote in 3 weeks' time, end quote. And Scott, in a post on X this past Tuesday afternoon, wrote, quote, the Washington Commanders have not ruled out the possibility of a retractable roof for the new potential stadium at the RFK site, according to a source close to the situation. The team is also having conversations about keeping RFK in the new stadium name, according to source, end quote. And Scott, in a post on X this past Tuesday afternoon, wrote, quote, plenty of questions regarding tailgating at a potential new stadium at the RFK site. According to a source close to the situation, there are plans for tailgating opportunities at certain designated areas outside the new stadium, end quote. For more on all of this, we welcome on Scott Abraham. You can follow him on X at Scott7News. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Al, been too long. Pleasure. Thank you for having me on, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. The prevailing belief has been that the D.C. Council will approve this deal for a Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium site. Whether the approval happens by July 15th, who knows? But do you believe that the council ultimately will approve this deal?
I just have a weird feeling. You go back, several months ago, they went up right to the limit with the land transfer, backdoor deals, whatever, midnight hour, and they got it done. I feel like it's going to be a similar situation here. I just have that instinct, and I just feel like they're going to vote, and it's going to get done on July 15th. Certainly, there's a lot of monkey wrenches that could be in the mix here, and then we're less than three weeks away, Al. So, I had a good conversation with a few people close to the situation, and got some interesting nuggets because I know it's looming, right? So I just kind of want to get ahead of it and kind of figure out where things are at. And they believe, the team believes that there's a path to get this done on July 15th in D.C. And that's what kind of they're putting all their eggs in that basket, that the belief that this is going to get done.
From what you can gather, the holdup on the D.C. Council voting on the stadium deal would be what?
I think the key word is time. I think from the perspective of the council and Chairman Phil Mendelson, they want to do their due diligence, Al. They want to make sure this is the right deal for the city and for the neighborhoods surrounding the RFK site, for the taxpayers. And people may, scoff at that and say, how much time do they need? It's 2.5 months. But you have to understand there's so much money being thrown around here in terms of, private funding versus taxpayer dollars. And I understand both sides of the coin of, Phil Mendelson and the council members just wanting to get the right deal. But I also understand D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and, the team perspective. They want this done because they want to start booking out their new stadium. They want shovels in the ground so they can go to a Final Four. They can go to a WrestleMania. They can go to the NFL and be like, hey, we're going to be playing football in 2030. Let's book some stuff on the calendar. Let's get it on the books. Shovels are in the ground. We're full speed ahead. So they don't want any type of delay because they want to be playing football in 2030. So the key word, I believe, is time in both instances, Al.
Regarding that issue of time, and I know that you're not in the construction business, but would the D.C. Council not approving the stadium deal by July 15th jeopardize the stadium opening for the 2030 season, as is the intent?
That's a great question. I certainly believe from the mayor's perspective and the team's perspective, that would be an adamant yes, right? They need it by July 15th to ensure they're playing, in 2030. Who knows what could happen in construction, certain instances that can delay it, in the construction phase. Like you said, I'm not an expert in construction, but, things come about during this process where delays could happen. So the later you kind of kick this can down the road, the more likelihood you may not start in 2030. So I got to take the mayor and the team at their word, saying why this is an important date, why this has to get settled now and not, later in the fall. So I would say, yes, if there is a delay, there's probably a likelihood that you would not be playing football by 2030 in a new stadium.
What you reported about the roof for this Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium side, quote, the Washington Commanders have not ruled out the possibility of a retractable roof for the new potential stadium at the RFK site, according to a source close to the situation, end quote. My understanding is that a retractable roof is absurdly expensive, as in hundreds of billions of dollars. Would that cost be worth it?
I was thinking that, Al, like they have to look at the cost value of this, right? What's the best place to invest their money in this stadium? What they're building. They have a piece of clay and they're molding to what they think is going to be best for their fans, for the city. And what do you get in a retractable roof? You get the natural ambiance of having an outdoor football game, the elements, the sun, the warmth, the chill. That's kind of what you get with a retractable roof. They're going to have a roof without a doubt. To get a Super Bowl, you have to have a roof. So that's going to be priority number one. They're going to have a roof. They're having conversations. They're trying to figure out, is it worth putting that extra money? Because it's going to be a lot more extra money from a mechanical perspective, from the technological perspective, to have a retractable roof. So they're going through that with design firms and figuring out the utilization of design. And I do know they want to make sure that they bring the outside in. So whether that's, glass paneling in the end zone where you can see out and see the Capitol or see some sort of outside element, they want to incorporate the surroundings of that RFK site, of the sight lines where a fan in the stadium can look outside and see whatever, the Capitol down the road or whatever may be. So they want to kind of incorporate windows or a retractable roof. So they're going through all those type of conversations and phases right now, Al.
And that makes total sense. And the rendering of the stadium that has been out there has included a clear ceiling/roof. Give me that. I think that looks spectacular.
Because, there's certain stadiums out there already. I think Allegiant Stadium. I think maybe Indianapolis is a situation. Not sure about Atlanta, but they've started to incorporate, those windows. I know Dallas, the Cowboys, they've had that sunlight issue sometimes, but I think that just adds some more charm and nostalgia to a new stadium to incorporate what's seen on the outside and bring that inside to a fan that's watching the game.
What you reported about the name of the stadium, quote, the team is also having conversations about keeping RFK in the new stadium name, according to source, end quote. The widespread expectation has been that the stadium will have a corporate name, given how much money that can generate. Would RFK as part of the name for the stadium be in effect only until a corporate naming rights deal is struck? Or would RFK as part of the name for the stadium be in effect even with a corporate naming rights deal?
What I gathered when I was talking to the source is that RFK would be part of the name. So think, Al, maybe Northwest Field at RFK Stadium or Northwest Stadium at RFK, something like that. They're going to have a partner, a naming rights to this stadium. So that's just too much money to leave off the table. So there's going to be some sort of naming rights, but they have a lot of respect and they like RFK because of the tradition, the heritage at that site and what that means to the fan base of the Commanders in this franchise. So they're having talks of figuring out how they can still incorporate those letters RFK in the new name. So I think it's going to be like a Northwest Field at RFK Stadium or Northwest Stadium at RFK, insert whatever corporate sponsor you want to put. But I think that's what they're looking at.
Well, that would be quite the mouthful of a name for all of us to have to say whenever referring to the stadium.
Yeah, but I do appreciate that they are kind of doing their due diligence and having that type of discussion because, Al, you're a native here. Like you know what that site means to so many people and what RFK Stadium, those memories, those moments. It's in a lot of the fan base. So I appreciate that they're having those conversations for the new stadium.
Much more with Scott Abraham in moments. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the NACE Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the NACE Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The NACE Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the NACE Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The NACE Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. We're talking Commanders with 7 News DC Sports Director Scott Abraham. What you reported about tailgating at this potential Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium site in D.C. Quote, according to a source close to the situation, there are plans for tailgating opportunities at certain designated areas outside the new stadium, end quote. One good thing about Jack Kent Cooke Stadium / FedEx Field / Northwest Stadium is that tailgating at the stadium has very much been a thing because there is ample room for tailgating. That would not be the case with this stadium on the RFK Stadium site. To what degree would tailgating be a thing at this stadium?
I think so. You obviously have that picture of driving up to Northwest Stadium, FedEx Field, and there's just fields of parking lots, and you see, tailgating in every single parking lot, whatever parking lot you park at or go to at Northwest Stadium, there's probably somebody to be tailgating. That's not going to be the situation at this new stadium because they just don't have that type of land and that type of space to have so many open parking lots where that's going to happen. But what I gathered from talking to the sources, they're going to have designated spots, designated lots, parking lots, where fans who want to tailgate can utilize those lots, those spaces to tailgate. It's not going to be as vast and as expansive as what we're used to now currently at Northwest Stadium. So that's something fans have to understand. They're going to have the optionality of tailgating, but it's going to be limited where you're going to have to be designated to a certain section, certain parking space at the new stadium at RFK.
And just thinking about this logically, there are plenty of NFL stadiums in cities and thus with limited tailgating space. Maybe fans with the Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium site in D.C. would develop new tailgating traditions, like tailgating at bars and restaurants near the stadium, that kind of thing.
And that brings up a good point because this is not just going to be a stadium, Al. They're going to build this up. So my source used the comparison of the new Atlanta Braves stadium. I forgot what it's called. Is it Battery? The Battery? Is that what it's called? I think they have. It's like a lot of restaurants and bars that's around that stadium, and that they want to kind of emulate that at the RFK site, where you can go to a restaurant or bar or whatever and then go to the stadium, and there's going to be a gathering place or like a bullpen type of situation at Nats Park. So there's going to be other avenues to have a drink or socialize with fellow fans before the game than just the simple traditional tailgating in a parking lot. I think that's what they're envisioning as they're constructing not just the stadium but everything around it.
You are a master of asking thought-provoking questions at Commanders press conferences. During Commanders head coach Dan Quinn's post-practice press conference on May 28th, what was the Commanders' first OTA day of the 2025 offseason, had this back and forth between you and Quinn.
Hi, Dan. Last year you guys were kind of like the hunters. Now this year...
We're always the hunters.
Okay.
Don't go there. I know I'm cutting you off right before you get started.
Okay.
Yeah. That way we don't have to get into, are you the hunter, the hunted? We are always the hunters.
Explain that then, because you've had a lot of success last year.
I knew where you were going with that. And I like it. I'm glad.
And in a sense, last year you were one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So obviously the bar has been raised. Teams below you are looking at trying to knock you guys off in a sense. So that role reversal of how this team is going to handle success, what does that look like to you?
So we've got a lot to prove. And so for us, that is what the hunting is. It's not something that's going to be on at the end of the season. It's right now about these next 3 weeks. We've got a couple weeks OTAs and a mini camp, and it's absolutely going after it as hard as we can to see how good we can get, and then we'll worry about training camp. But the hunter is a mindset. It's an attitude of absolutely delivering and going for it. But that's who we are, and that doesn't change on anything done previously. It's just how we get down.
All right, so let it be known, make it be said, the Commanders are the hunters, not the hunted. Whatever you do not call the team the hunted. Don't say that. What did you think of Dan Quinn's reaction to that question from you?
I loved how he's setting the messaging. That was just a tone setter for this upcoming 2025 season. He wants to feel like and instill into the fan base and obviously the players that are watching or listening that they haven't accomplished anything yet. They made it to the NFC Championship game. They haven't won a Vince Lombardi trophy. They haven't won a Super Bowl. So they're still clawing. They're still the ones that are trying to be the hunters. And he doesn't want them to kind of rest on their success, rest on their laurels, because that was kind of the part of my question of how are you going to handle success, right? They were one win away from the Super Bowl last year. Not a lot of people expected that. They had a successful year last year. How's this team going to handle that success? And that was kind of, in my opinion, he was setting that messaging. He was setting that tone of, listen, we haven't done anything yet. We have a long way to go. So I respected it. I didn't mind him cutting me off, and I thought it was a good question. And he obviously thought it was a good question because he pounced on it, because he wanted to make it known in terms of the tone and the messaging that, hey, we're always the hunters. And it was a great soundbite. You'd put that on a T-shirt. We're always the hunters. So I loved it.
It was very entertaining. You on your X account, @Scott7News, put out a lot of great videos of your interactions with Commanders players. Who are your favorite Commanders players with whom to speak?
Okay. Offense, Terry McLaurin. Just a pro's pro, Al. He is, as advertised, physical talents, obviously, on the football field. Such a great player. But the human being, Al, he was raised so well. Just a kind human, genuinely cares about, hey, how's your summer, Scott? Or how's the family, Scott? Off camera, and then on camera on the microphone when the lights turn on. He just gives such good, in-depth answers to your questions. He doesn't shrug them off, and I really enjoyed talking to Terry. Defensive side of the ball, I love Frankie Louvu. I am a huge fan of Frankie Louvu, the person, the player. I really enjoyed getting to know Frankie last year and what he brings to the locker room, his backstory, his makeup, really media friendly, always taking time to ask a question. If he has to run for training or run quickly to a meeting, he'll give you 2 minutes real quickly. And he's really good. He's really good at kind of the nuances of what they see on defense. This alignment, how do you stop Saquon Barkley? Gives really good answers, and I think those two guys really stand out. And as a position group, the offensive line is really fun to talk to. Sam Cosmi, just from a comfortability on the microphone, from his rookie year to where he is now, he's one of my favorite guys to talk to. Andrew Wiley, who's always been good. Nick Allegretti. Nick Allegretti's a character. He always has great sound bites and insight. Truly, though, Al, it's a really good room to talk to. Aside from, maybe Marshawn Lattimore, who doesn't really necessarily like to talk to the media, that's okay. Everyone is really good and really nice, really great to work with.
You mentioned Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin. Training camp is not that far away. Rookies report on July 18th. Veterans report on July 23rd. Will a Terry McLaurin contract extension be done by the time that camp begins?
I do. I think it's going to be done before training camp starts. You look at the track record of this, a few years ago when he wanted a contract extension, same type of thing happened, missing OTAs, missing mini camp, and I think it got done early July that time around. So I'm expecting this to be done before they hit the field for those training camp practices. It's posturing, it's negotiating. I understand, from both sides, but the team knows what Terry brings, as we talked about on the field, but that leader in the locker room, the leader in the community. He's been like a spokesperson almost in a sense for this team for so many years. And from a numbers perspective, what he did last year just shows you when you have a really good quarterback under center that can make plays and throw that deep ball and throw every type of route, Terry's going to put up the numbers. So that's just a scratching of the surface of what him and Jaden can do together. And I think the big outlier is just the type of human he is and how he represents the organization on and off the field. You can't put a price tag on that. I think that magic number is going to be $30 million. I think if they get, I think that's going to be the number that's going to stick out to me. I think it'll be $30 million. That's my thought, but I think it's going to get done before training camp, Al.
I'm with you. 7 News DC Sports Director Scott Abraham. Scott, thanks. All the best.
Thanks, my friend.
Okay, well, basketball season now may be over, but there still is ample opportunity to run your game on Prize Picks via baseball. Put your knowledge of Washington and Baltimore to work for you on Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories like RBI or strikeouts. And Prize Picks Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks is offering a special deal to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. You make your picks in less than 60 seconds. You can turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks and take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of this podcast. Download the app, use the promo code GALDI, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Whenever I need to send roses that are guaranteed to make someone's day, the only place I trust is 1-800-Flowers.com. With 1-800-Flowers, my friends and family always receive stunning, high-quality bouquets that they absolutely love. Right now, when you buy a dozen multicolored roses, 1-800-Flowers will double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. To claim this special Double Roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora.
Well, the Redskins in the second round of the 1994 NFL Draft took offensive lineman Tre Johnson out of Temple. He ended up being a good player for the Skins. Let us hope that Tre Johnson out of the University of Texas ends up being a good player for our Wizards. So we on Wednesday night had the first round of the 2025 NBA Draft, which is taking place at Brooklyn's Barclays Center. The Wizards had 2 first-round picks. The Wizards with the number 6 overall pick took Tre Johnson out of the University of Texas, and the Wizards with the number 18 overall pick took Walter Clayton Jr. out of the University of Florida, but they reportedly are trading him to the Utah Jazz for the University of Illinois' Will Riley, who the Jazz took with the number 21 overall pick, and the Wizards reportedly are getting the number 43 overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft and second-round picks in the 2031 and 2032 NBA drafts. Also, remember, we on Tuesday afternoon had reports of the Wizards having agreed to trade Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the 40th overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft to the New Orleans Pelicans for C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick. C.J. McCollum is on an expiring contract. Kelly Olynyk is on an expiring contract. That would be the same Kelly Olynyk who famously scorched our Wizards in their Game 7 loss at the Boston Celtics in the second round of the NBA playoffs in 2017. And the Wizards now are expected to approach $100 million in salary cap space in 2026. None of these trades can become official until July 6th, when the NBA's new league year begins, but Monumental Basketball president Michael Winger and Wizards general manager Will Dawkins continue to do as they should for the Wizards in their rebuild. Acquire young players with upside, accumulate draft capital, even if that means taking on bad contracts, and create salary cap flexibility. It does remain painful that the Wizards got jobbed in the 2025 NBA Draft in getting the worst possible pick that they could have gotten, the number 6 overall pick. But I do continue to like what Winger and Dawkins are doing, and I recognize that there's no guarantee that what Winger and Dawkins are doing is going to work, but I do think that Winger and Dawkins are taking the right approach. The top 5 picks in the 2025 NBA Draft went as follows. The Dallas Mavericks took Duke's Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick. No surprise. The San Antonio Spurs took Rutgers' Dylan Harper with the number 2 overall pick. No surprise. The Philadelphia 76ers took Baylor's VJ Edgecombe with the number 3 overall pick. The Charlotte Hornets took Duke's Con Knipple with the number 4 overall pick, and the Utah Jazz took Rutgers' Ace Bailey with the number 5 overall pick. So neither VJ Edgecombe nor Con Knipple nor Ace Bailey fell to the Wizards, but Tre Johnson did. And I like Tre Johnson. I think that he could end up being really good for the Wizards. Tre Johnson is a prototypical two-guard, a shooting guard, and he can shoot. ESPN NBA draft analyst Jay Billis, during ESPN's telecast of the first round on Wednesday night, called Johnson the best overall shooter in this draft. So the Wizards got a guy who has the potential to be a really good scorer. He has high offensive upside. He is a tough and fearless player. He's a guy who, if you watched him in college, you very much picked up on him not being scared, not shying away from the moment. Tre Johnson this past season, his freshman season, played in 33 games and was number 1 among all SEC players in minutes per game, 34.7, and in points per game, 19.9. He shot 39.7% on threes, 89 for 224. He was the SEC Freshman of the Year. Johnson did a virtual press conference on Wednesday night. My favorite part of the presser by far was him saying that Will Dawkins, during Johnson's visit to the Wizards, actually showed Johnson clips of him taking plays off, but that stuck with him and motivated him to be great. Good for Dawkins for doing that. Good for Johnson for taking that the right way. The 2025 NBA Draft Combine took place May 11th through the 18th in Chicago. Johnson at the combine registered the following measurements: a height without shoes of 6'4" and 3/4 of an inch, wingspan of 6'10" and 1/4 of an inch, vertical leap of 37.5 inches. As for Will Riley, so he for this past season, his freshman season, was the Big Ten's Sixth Man of the Year. Riley played in all 35 of Illinois' games with 8 starts. He for the season averaged 12.6 points per game, but he over the final 15 games averaged 15.9 points per game, and he had some big postseason games. So he set a program record for points by a freshman in an NCAA tournament game with 22 in a first-round win over Xavier on March 21st. He in Illinois' win over Maryland on March 14th in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament had 15 points and 7 rebounds. So Riley at the combine registered the following measurements: height without shoes of 6'8" and 1/4 of an inch, wingspan of 6'8" and 3/4 of an inch, vertical leap of 32 inches. And so our updated core of young players for the rebuilding Wizards: Tre Johnson, Will Riley, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, A.J. Johnson, Keyshawn George, Tristan Vukcevic, and Colby Jones. They, of course, will not all pan out. But if just a few deliver on their upside, that is big. And that's the hope here. You're taking a bunch of swings. You're just hoping to at least connect with a few of those swings. Also, in the first round of the 2025 NBA draft, Maryland's Derek Queen. He was taken by the Atlanta Hawks with the number 13 overall pick, though he's reportedly being traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. And Georgetown's Thomas Sorber, he was taken by the NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder with the number 15 overall pick. Sorber, the first Georgetown player taken in an NBA draft since the Wizards took Otto Porter Jr. with the number 3 overall pick in the 2013 NBA draft. That is something. A lot has been made of the lack of run support for Pittsburgh Pirates ace Paul Skeens. He over 17 starts in MLB's 2025 regular season has an ERA at 2.12, but a record of just 4-7. Well, the Nationals ace MacKenzie Gore, he over 17 starts this regular season has an ERA of 3.09, but a record of just 3-8. His record is worse than that of Paul Skeens. The Nats lost at the San Diego Padres 1-0 on Wednesday to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The Nats now are at a new low point in this regular season, 15 games below 500, 33-48. We have arrived at the numerical midpoint of the Nats regular season, in which they are on pace for just 66 wins. This off back-to-back regular seasons, each with just 71 wins. As I have been saying, the Nats rebuild isn't working. This is very disturbing. A 66-win pace in this season number 5 of a rebuild. And MacKenzie Gore on Wednesday, again, was a hard luck loser. He allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. He gave up 5 hits, all of which were singles. He did issue 3 walks into wild pitch. He threw 103 pitches, 65 strikes versus 38 balls, and he fielded his position well. Gore made 3 well-executed defensive plays on balls hit back towards him. Gore out for this regular season, 17 starts, ERA of 3.09, whip of 1.20, strikeouts per 9 innings of 11.73, ranking number 1 among all qualified pitchers in MLB. But yeah, his record is just 3-8. The Nats bullpen in this 1-0 loss at the Padres on Wednesday was good. 2 Nats relievers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Brad Lord tossed 1 2/3 scoreless innings. Kyle Finnegan faced 1 batter and got 1 out, which was a swinging strikeout of Jose Iglesias with a runner on second, and the Nats trailing 1-0 to end the bottom of the 8th. But the Nats offense in this game was bad. The Nats scored no runs, a total just 3 hits, worked no walks, and did not register a single at-bat with a runner in scoring position. Each of the Nats' 3 hits was a single. Padres starting pitcher and former Nats prospect Nick Pivetta, He tossed 7 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts versus no walks. So the Nats took Nick Pivetta in the 4th round of the 2013 MLB draft out of New Mexico Junior College. They, on July 28th, 2015, traded him to the Philadelphia Phillies for closer Jonathan Papelbon in cash. Pivetta now is in his age 32 season, and he's having a really good season. Pivetta for this regular season, 16 starts, ERA a 3.36, whip of 1.03. And the Nats in this game did nothing offensively. The Nats numbers 1 through 5 batters, C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Luis Garcia Jr., Nathaniel Lowe, and Brady House. They went a combined 0 for 17 with no walks and 9 strikeouts. And Abrams committed a throwing error. Here was Nats manager Davey Martinez during his postgame session with reporters on Wednesday evening on MacKenzie Gore and the Nats' bad offense in this game. And then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Man, he's done really well. He's kept us in the game every time he goes out there. On the flip side, we faced a pretty good pitcher today. Kept us all balanced. His curveball was really sharp. I think we had a tough time seeing the breaking pitches, and then upshoot on the fastball really got us in between. So, but MacKenzie pitched really, really well.
Is it frustrating for the guys who played behind him to know they couldn't pick him up today?
Look, they wanted to pick him up. I know that. I mean, they were out there grinding. Like I said, the other guy was pretty good as well today. We just couldn't pick up a couple runs for him.
What was Pivetta doing that made it hard to make adjustments as the game went on?
Yeah, he's got a real high angle. His breaking ball comes down very sharp. His cutter was good. He threw some cutters to some right-handed hitters, to our lefties as well. But he was around the plate all day long and got ahead and finished guys off either with a curveball or the fastball up.
All right, no game for the Nats on Thursday. Next up for them is a 3-game series at the Los Angeles Angels. Game 1 Friday night at 9:38. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday night at 9:38. Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 4:07. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Well, in what has been a really disappointing season for the Orioles, one of the last things that the O's needed on Wednesday evening was to be no-hit. They weren't, but they came close. A 7-0 loss to the Texas Rangers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 34-46. The O's in this game, no runs, just 1 hit, just 2 walks, 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. Rangers starting pitcher Jacob deGrom. He tossed 7 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts. He took a no-hit bid into the 8th inning. Colton Cowser ended that no-hit bid. He is the Orioles starting left fielder and number 6 batter, went 1 for 3 with a single. Cowser in the bottom of the 8th had a leadoff single through the right side of the infield to mercifully end deGrom's bid for a no-hitter. But how about Jacob deGrom? He in his age 37 season and 2 years removed from Tommy John surgery that he underwent in June 2023, what was his second Tommy John surgery, is having a tremendous season. deGrom now for this regular season, 16 starts, ERA of 2.08, whip of 0.88. The O's on Wednesday evening got deGrommed. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 0 for 4 with no walks, ending his 19-game on-base streak. Here was Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino during his post-game press conference on Wednesday night on Jacob deGrom, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges as the O's suffered their 8th shutout loss in this regular season.
Tonight's all Jacob deGrom. I think a good illustration of how good that guy is obviously you guys see like the fastball velocity and the ability to locate the fastball velocity. He's not, the catcher isn't setting up in the middle part of the plate like a lot of major league catchers you see across the game right now. He's setting up on the edges and he's hitting his locations. But I was talking to Gunnar in the 8th inning. Gunnar had made me aware, and I didn't realize it, that he had 3 bats and not seen 1 fastball. So here's a guy that locates 100 in the big leagues, and Gunnar Henderson doesn't get 1 of those fastballs. So, when he's on, that might be the toughest bat in the big leagues right now. We saw it tonight.
But when you see this happening a bunch of times with your team, do you see anxiousness from your guys?
No, I think there's a little bit of fatigue right now. This has been a grind. I think you can attribute a little bit of that to that. I think guys are trying to win. I think there's, a little bit of not anxiety, but maybe a tick of pressing at times. And, I think the other one was Clark Schmidt, right, that did it recently. He's pretty good too. You can kind of put, I know people don't talk about him as like a 1 or a 2 even, but when you look at the numbers he's putting up, he might be. So I think we ran in some good pitching here recently. I think guys are a little bit tired. In this mix too, we scored some runs at certain points too. So it hasn't been every night, but just a tough night. But it's Jacob deGrom. That's why it happened tonight.
These have been tough pitchers, but do you think there's any accountability the lineup needs to take just for the relative lack of offense, considering, 2 weeks ago you guys were starting to look up, in that regard?
Yeah, so in terms of accountability, I think when you see how these guys prepare every day and how they go about their business and what the intensity level is in the dugout, there's a ton of accountability, but it's still baseball, and you have tough nights at certain times. So I don't think accountability is anywhere near kind of the right word for kind of what it is. I think it's just a tough few nights, to be honest with you. Again, you see the process, you see how these guys work, you see the preparation physically, the game plan preparation. It's as good as anybody's in the big leagues. I think missing Adley for a little bit, that certainly doesn't help. It's a tough at bat in the middle of the game. We got Westy back in there tonight. He's been out for a few games, so it's tough. I wouldn't look too deep into it. It's a really strange week. I think as you guys watch baseball on a nightly basis over the course of the year, really weird things happen all the time, and I'd probably attribute 3 days like this to that.
All right, the O's on Wednesday afternoon announced having recalled starting pitcher Brandon Young from AAA Norfolk, for which Young has done well this season. He was the Orioles starting pitcher in this 7-0 loss to the Rangers on Wednesday evening. Young officially allowed 4 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 2 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded 2 strikeouts. He threw 61 pitches, 39 strikes versus 22 balls, and 4 Orioles relievers in this 7-0 loss to the Rangers on Wednesday evening combined to allow 3 runs in 5 innings. Scott Blewett officially allowed 3 runs in 2 innings. Brian Baker tossed a scoreless top of the 7th. Gregory Soto tossed a perfect top of the 8th, and Andrew Kittredge tossed a perfect top of the 9th. The O's on Wednesday afternoon announced having option reliever Yaramil Geraldo to AAA Norfolk. No game for the O's on Thursday. Next up for them is a 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Game 1 Friday night at 7:05, Tomoyuki Sagano will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:05, Zach Eflin will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35, Dean Kramer will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. So I am taking some vacation days. The next installment of this podcast, barring major breaking news in the meantime, will be out this coming Wednesday morning, July 2nd, what will be episode 1104, and it'll have a lot for you on the Commanders, Nationals, Orioles, and who knows what else. Have a great next few days, and I'll talk to you in a few days.
Hi, Dan. Last year you guys were kind of like the hunters. Now this year,
we're always the hunters.
Okay.
Don't go there. I know I'm cutting you off right before you get started.
Okay.
Yeah. That way we don't have to get into, are you the hunter or the hunted? We are always the hunters.